I made my father into a really comic figure there. The Army colonel that he's wearing his non-regulation uniform going to a reunion. My father would never have done anything like that, and he thought that kind of thing was silly. The mother was never that silly. The woman in the story counts the slices of bread, and to see if her son has taken a sandwich, to work and that kind of thing. My mother never would have done anything like that. I hiked it all. I made up these things. I really did, and made up the general direction of the story. And I had all this family funny business going on, but the direction of the story was finally the inadvertent freeing of the girl, because she looks at what her brother's getting away with and decides, well, why can't I do something else? I don't have to hang around here teaching singing and going out with the band director whom I don't care about. So she gets an idea from him, especially after he tries to fix her up a date and the guy just goes to sleep on her.
Can you talk about where women
Yes.
fit in society at that time, in the 1950s?
Well,
Because it was a time of change.
it was a big change, and that was before the whole business of women's rights came along. I mean, it had come along before, in that you had all the Parkinson sisters in England going to jail so women could vote and that kind of thing. And we could all do that. But if I went to work on a newspaper, I had to work in what used to be called society, and is now called. And I can't tell you how many weddings I wrote up. It's the boringest thing in the world. I'm sorry, those of you who haven't gotten married yet. But writing one wedding after another is like going to one rodeo after another. They all the same. Anyway, to the person who's writing about them, it's different, of course, for those who are getting married. But I went to work in Georgia while my husband was in the Army down there for a newspaper, and I had to work in society. And finally, I went to the editor and said, I can do something else. Let me do some features for you. And so I began to make up my own assignments, and say I would have to get them okayed, but then I'd go out and do something that particularly interested me about women. I, for instance, I interviewed all the women doctors in Augusta, Georgia at the time, or any number of things that people were doing. But this was your role, and you really had to, in order to get out of it, you had to think for yourself, and then you had to push on to do whatever it was you wanted to do. When I went to college, most girls majored in education. Either they were going to be school teachers or something that we called home economics, that you were supposed to learn how to cook and sew and decorate a house and do all those things that only women were supposed to do. So it was kind of a really divided world in that way. So I was annoyed by all this. I thought women could do any number of things, and men could too. But I felt I was fighting this in my work, and as well as in my life. I mean, I wanted to. When I was first asked to teach at the University of Texas, my husband just thought it was a terrible idea, and I said, "Well, I'm going to do it," and I did. So that it was always. You could teach in grammar school or you could teach in high school, and there were women in my English department. There were 3 women then, just 3, and they were old, and they were teaching very obscure things like Old Icelandic or something like that, or Old Irish.
You guys might know it.
Yeah,
Closer to you.
yeah. But I mean, they had no power at all, and they were delightful people, but they had no power, and they were paid less very often. This was the most rankling thing, the main thing that made you the maddest.